Hello and welcome to Chapter 4 of The Legend of Nobunaga. So we have a selection of levels to pick. I decided to go from right to left for this series to represent Nobunaga marching from east to west towards Kyoto. So it's the Battle of Mount Tamon against the Matsunaga army, which I was slightly confused by because Nobunaga didn't fight Matsunaga at this stage in history. So they've made this battle up, so we'll see what that's about in a moment. The actual battle for Kyoto was mainly against the Miyoshi army, which we see here. Even the Miyoshi army on this map isn't really centered in the correct area. It should be slightly lower, perhaps between this point and the point of Katano on the map. Katano is one of the minor battles, which I'll probably do off camera at some point. Even Mount Tamon is in the wrong place, well, the completely wrong place. I think Mount Tamon is slightly to the west of Honnoji Temple. So I need to just go into the temple to adjust some of the equipment. What I'm going to do with this battle of Mount Tamon is I'm going to try and show you how it's allegorically historically correct. I can sort of see why they put this level into the game. It does represent some vaguely historical events. So I'm going to explain those once we're in the battle. You can see what I'm doing is checking for superior types of troops to give to some of my officers, just to make sure they have the best possible stats ready for the battle. Really the sort of thing I should have done off camera, but I guess I forgot. So I have a quick look through. I found one that's better for Hideyoshi and give him those mounted Kama spears. And now we're going to head into the battle against Hitsuhide Matsunaga, one of the I don't know, infamous characters of the era. He's fairly important both historically and in the legend of Nobunaga. He is a very villainized character for various reasons, which I'll go into later on.
Alright, we have our goal. We shall be moving soon. Sir!
Oh yeah, for some reason my mouse comes on the screen here for some reason, so I'll have to ignore that. So it's the clash at Mount Tamon, a non-historical battle representing vaguely historical events. Let's check the story.
This doesn't seem right.
Oh snap.
What are you trying to do? Kill me!
Note
What do you
the
think of it?
foreign man in
How
the
about you,
background
Sparta?
wearing different
Wanna
style of
try?
clothing. Probably
My
Portuguese.
spear is all I need.
A Portuguese
What,
trader, I would
scared?
expect.
What was
Or
that?
perhaps a Jesuit from the cross on his chest.
Hitsuhide, show what you can do.
Hi, as you command.
For some reason Mitsuhide says hi instead of yes, which is Japanese for yes. So I think they forgot to record him saying yes in the English voiceover and threw in the Japanese one to fill in.
Hi.
There it is
I
again.
believe that my skill with firearms is as good as any of your retainers. As good as anyone in the land.
In the land? You have confidence. Still, if you say so, I'm sure it's true. Hear me. It's no longer the time for fighting one-on-one. Firearms! Firearms will win the coming battle! We'll overcome chaos!
That's a historical reference to Takeda Shingen, who actually said that the year before. Takeda Shingen was one of the great strategists of the era, and it was him who realized that
Planning is
firearms
the
were
key.
so important.
Let's start.
But in the game, Nobunaga says it.
Our scouts have come back with the following reports.
I guess just because the game loves Nobunaga. So we're going to head in and see what sort of battle they've lined up for this non-historical event.
We shall win this battle if we defeat the enemy commander Hisahide Matsunaga.
Oops, sorry about that.
However, we've been unable to discover Matsunaga's current location. Reports say that he has doubles running around the field. We must be careful.
Indeed he does. This is a very strange battle. It's unlike any of the other levels.
Hisahide Matsunaga is the traitor who killed the shogun, Lord Yoshiaki's brother. We must punish him in this battle.
He did indeed kill him. Well, not specifically.
My lord, how shall we deploy?
I guess he definitely helped kill him. Him and the Miyoshi clan, which I'll be talking about a little bit later on. So I need to position a couple of my units. I sort of already knew where this was going. He said that he had loads of doubles around the map, and I thought this is almost definitely going to be some sort of crazy, like, trap base level, so I deployed all cavalry units in order to have maneuverability to avoid the traps and all these crazy corridors and forests. So you can see there's an enemy base up there in a clearing, so I guess going over there is going to be pretty useful. The conditions just say like, which unit is the real Hisahide? Question. So that's not very useful at all. Sometimes the conditions give you little hints. But anyway, the first thing I want to talk about, since this battle isn't too historical, is what we were introduced to in the cutscene just before, the use of firearms. So firearms at this stage in history would be very, very common. It must be, we're in 1568 at the moment.
Our council is over. Blow the horns. We ride to war soon.
Hooray! So guns first came to Japan in 1543, so they've been around for a while now. We actually saw Nobunaga using one in the opening of the game.
Do not leave any regrets behind. Follow me.
And so the battle begins. You can see right from the offset there are loads of enemy units right in front of me, and they just retreat.
Lord Nobunaga, let's see if you have what it takes.
So I ignore whatever he was saying. So I have to try and hunt down these units, and that's going to take a while. So while that happens, I continue to talk about firearms. So in 1543, a Portuguese trader that had been blown off course from China landed at Tanegashima, which is an island south of Japan, and they had firearms, matchlocks. So what the Europeans were using as firearms. Now Japan already did have gunpowder. They already had a firearm called the Teppo, which was a Chinese style firearm. It was like a hand cannon, similar to the hand cannons used in medieval Europe around the 1300s. But they were super ineffective and very dangerous. So this encounter with the Portuguese traders was their first introduction to the matchlock, which is it's not as good as a musket. It's sort of a slower firing musket. It's sometimes called an arquebus in Western history. But this weapon was far more effective than the Teppo. The Portuguese called them snap matchlocks, but the Japanese called them Tanegashimas after Tanegashima Island, where they were first taken on by the Lord of Tanegashima. What I think happened is the Lord of Tanegashima Island bought 2 matchlocks from the Portuguese when they arrived, and basically copied them. And from then on, it sort of become well known how to copy the design of matchlocks, and gunsmiths all over Japan started getting these designs and building the weapon, and they become very, very common after just a couple of years, and matchlocks were very much the vogue weapon. There are a few different stories as to how the ship came to be in Tanegashima. Some say it was blown off course and shipwrecked there, and they had no choice but to trade their weapons for the favour of the Japanese. Others say that they were forced to go there due to some Japanese trade regulations, because most trade routes going past Japan would come up from the south along the Chinese coast and then head along the South Japanese coast passing Kyushu and Tanegashima Island. And it was sort of traditional that all trade ships passing through Japan would go to Tanegashima first and sort of check in. So that could have been the reason that Tanegashima got first access to these muskets. So Tanegashima went to the mainland and gave these muskets to the Shimazu clan, which are the rulers of South Kyushu Island, one of the southern islands of Japan. And from there it spread very rapidly across Japan until pretty much every clan had access to them. And even after just a couple of years, they were very much used throughout Japan, despite the fact that some people say that the samurai were reluctant to take up the use of the matchlock because it was not a traditional samurai weapon. That's not necessarily true. I think after a couple of years, almost all samurai would have heard of matchlocks and would have some experience using them, and some samurai would even make the matchlock their weapon of choice, their primary weapon, and would use them in battle. And certainly Ashigaru foot soldier units used matchlocks in battle. For example, in 1549, I think Nobunaga Oda actually ordered about 500 matchlock rifles to be made, which he equipped to an Ashigaru force. So even just 6 years after the matchlock was essentially invented in Japan, it was already being used by Oda on a large military scale, and lots of other clan leaders did as well. And as I said earlier, in 1567, Takeda Shingen, the most feared and greatest strategist of the era, declared that matchlock rifles were the way to go. He realised that they would become the most important part of warfare, which is sort of ironic considering how Nobunaga used matchlocks to defeat him not many years into the future, but we'll get onto that later on. So I think the only other thing to say about the Japanese Tanegashima matchlock is that it was superior to the European version. So although the European version was used as the base of the design, they improved on it very rapidly, and it very quickly became better than the European equivalent. Because the European matchlock couldn't fire in the rain, for example. It was very unstable, it was hard to aim. So the Japanese version had various upgrades. It had these lacquer boxes that would protect some of the firing mechanisms from water and humid conditions. It had this system of strings you could use to set sights and aim and use it more like a rifle. And I think it also, they designed it to have, or at least they designed some models of it to have large caliber to allow it to pierce through armor. Because one of the big downsides of a matchlock rifle is that at its effective range of about 80 meters, the shot actually can't pierce armor, and being armor piercing is the main reason it's superior over the bow. So if it can't do that, then it really isn't very useful at all. So they designed them to have a larger caliber to fire larger shots, and some buckshot style ammunition as well, in order to take out armored targets or large numbers of unarmored targets. And this wasn't really something that was done in Europe. They also developed fire by rank techniques very quickly, which were developed more slowly in Europe. They were very quick to arrange fire by rank tactics in Japan. That's where you have either platoons firing one after the other, so you have a group firing, and whilst they reload, another group fires, so the constant stream of bullets coming down on the enemy units. Or you just have lines of infantry. First line fires, ducks down, the second line fires, ducks down, the third line fires, and this repeats in a chain. But anyway, so matchlocks are definitely coming into use. I don't have any matchlock units at the moment except for Mitsuhide Akechi, so maybe I'll try and field him in the next battle just to show you what the matchlocks are like. If you're watching very closely earlier in this level, you saw that Hideyoshi actually got hit by a volley of matchlock fire and lost quite a lot of health whilst he was taking that little fortress at the top left hand corner of the map. But that's enough about that. Let's talk about Hisahide Matsunaga, who is the person we're trying to find. We found lots of doubles so far, lots and lots of doubles, and we're going to find many more. So Hisahide was a retainer of the Miyoshi clan, which has been mentioned quite a few times already during this story. Miyoshi clan is the clan that controls the capital, or controlled the capital up to this point. So they have a lot of influence in the country, because they have access to the emperor and access to the imperial houses and the shogun and things like that. And basically the Miyoshi clan was the cause of Matsunaga's rise to power. He was a retainer who was very scheming, and this is why he got a reputation for being evil initially, because what would happen is the Miyoshi clan unified its lands in the 1540s, and in the 1550s Matsunaga was given control over Kyoto, and then in the early 1560s loads of the Miyoshi clan leadership mysteriously died. They all died under strange circumstances, and it sort of was suspected that Matsunaga was poisoning them. Especially in one case, he almost definitely poisoned some of the heirs to the Miyoshi clan, and it happened in such a way that he ended up as the heir to Miyoshi clan. So he was about to take over the clan for himself, but unfortunately for him, something happened. There's a group called the Miyoshi Trio, or the Miyoshi Three, or the Miyoshi Triumvirate. It's known by different names in different sources, but actually we have seen them in the game. We'll see them later on as well. This is a group of Miyoshi clan retainers, and they helped the leader of the clan adopt a new son who automatically became the new heir to the clan. So this new son replaced Matsunaga as heir to the clan, and they had the protection of this Miyoshi Trio. So Matsunaga found it difficult to do anything about it. So essentially what he did was in 1664 he had enough power. He had consolidated his control of the Yamato province, which is the province where Kyoto is, and he had enough power to become a daimyo in his own right and sort of set up his own clan, the Matsunaga clan. And he sort of did this. So he was basically created a vassal clan within the Miyoshi clan, which initially worked together with Miyoshi to fight off the shogun, the current shogun. At the time it was Yoshiteru Ashikaga, the brother of Yoshiaki, who we've seen many times in the story, the crazy white-faced guy. So he fought with the Miyoshi clan against him and killed him, and it's mentioned a couple of times already. It's going to be mentioned again that Matsunaga was the man who killed the shogun's brother. Well, the
name of Nobunaga
the former shogun, I should say, sorry. Here he is, the man himself. I finally found him. It took a while. So yes, and what really happened, of course, was that after Hisahide had captured Kyoto and killed the shogun, he just started fighting against the Miyoshi clan, trying to take control of it completely. And they would just fight continuously up until about 1564, at which point Hisahide was defeated, basically. He was forced to stop his campaign and just sit in Kyoto. And when Nobunaga arrived, he surrendered almost straight away. So this battle wouldn't have been a battle at all. He just surrendered to Nobunaga. So we're going to see him surrender right after I defeat him now. So that's when the history really kicks in. So this battle was just representing the fact that Hisahide was scheming, because we saw he was doing this scheming with the body doubles, and that's just representing that he is famed to be a scheming person. He's also famed to be a collector of tea memorabilia, which is something I think the game will go into very later on. But one of the conditions of Hisahide's surrender was that he gave Nobunaga a very impressive piece of tea creation kit. I'm not really sure what they're called. Like, there's lots of tea ceremony in Japan, which Nobunaga was a fan of. So Matsunaga gave him this impressive piece of equipment called the what was it? The Sukomogami or something like that, which he really loved. So that was part of the deal he got with Nobunaga, to surrender and not be killed.
The enemy has been routed.
So you can see here I managed to defeat him, found him eventually, after all that crazy running around, with help from some of those villagers. So we defeated him. Apparently there were 2 other officers in the field that I never found, so maybe there were some more doubles I didn't see. I see I got a pretty good score, managed to get the rank S, so I'm going to get some exciting prizes for that. A lacquerware war fan, pretty sweet. War fans were a pretty big deal back in these days. You could actually fight with a war fan. There were certain styles of kung fu which used a war fan as your weapon. Just fight off attacks with knives and poison darts and things like that. I also got this horse, which is pretty cool. Very rarely find horses, so I can now equip a different type of horse to someone. And I got a few levels up for all the characters as usual. And a few skill levels up as well, which is always useful. Not sure if I'll get any troop type leveled up. Oh, I do. Hideyoshi Hashiba got a troop type level up. Pretty sweet. So I need to save my game. So definitely Matsunaga is perceived as evil for what I mentioned in the Miyoshi clan, build to power, how people seem to die when they were around him. And we'll see later on that he's not to be trusted. So here we are, Mount Tamon Castle in Yamato. Let's see what happens.
He is the one who killed my brother! Kill him! Kill him! I have come to discuss terms for peace.
Why make peace? We have you on the run already.
Someday I will conquer the land. Until then, I cannot die.
And
Pretty
if
ambitious.
I refuse you, that ambition of yours will end right here.
Yours too, Lord Nobunaga. That ambition of yours will end right here. We were taking it easy on you this
He's
time.
got a lot of boasts, this guy.
Next time you can count on being in a real fight.
Yeah.
All right then. I will accept your surrender.
Wait. Weren't you listening to what I was saying? I told you to kill the traitor!
Hisahide Matsunaga is an evil man. He murdered the shogun and raised Todaji. However, he has knowledge that makes him
I'll mention what
absolutely necessary to
Todaji
us.
is in a minute.
So you think to use an evil man like me? It makes me wonder just how good a man you are yourself.
So there we have it. He's surrendered to us, and Nobunaga has defied the Shogun's brother's
I see
orders.
everyone's here. Let us begin this planning session.
Let us begin it. Nobunaga was very pro-Shogun at this stage because he knew that if he could restore
My lord,
Yoshiaki
this is the
to
current
the shogunate,
situation.
he would essentially be a puppet shogun. And that is what he's going to do around this time period. I think he actually might already, in the historical tale, might already have been restored as shogun at this point. So there we go, I completed that level. So I decided to show you the shop features. You can buy things. So I've got a whole lot of money now, so I was looking to buy these advanced mounted spears, a superior type of cavalry unit. So I checked with Nobunaga and it wasn't that good. But for Kicho, it would be a drastic improvement on her current Naginata warriors. So I decided to buy it for her. Special present for my lovely wife. There you have it, some advanced spears. I mean, what woman wouldn't love some advanced spears?
You got a real good deal there.
The fact that he said that makes me think I didn't get a good deal. But that's the end of him. So next time we're going to be heading west more to fight Miyoshi, which is much more close to the historical conflict over Kyoto. But for now, what happened historically was Matsunaga surrendered and became a vassal of Oda, and Nobunaga allowed Matsunaga to retain control over Kyoto and the Yamato province, so he kept his old domain, but now he was just under the dominion of the Oda clan at the same time. So Nobunaga was pretty nice to him. Matsunaga got a really good deal, and Nobunaga is going to be stung for his trust putting in this evil man. He said it himself how evil he is, and he's going to show his evil. Well, soon enough. He wasn't really the most trustworthy character. He's going to rebel against Nobunaga several times, and I believe it's shown in the game at least once. It does happen more than once. We'll see if it happens more than once in the actual game. In many ways it was Nobunaga's love of tea that secured the deal, because Matsunaga was a great collector of tea and tea paraphernalia. And actually there are some famous legends regarding Matsunaga's death that involve his famous tea paraphernalia, but I guess we're going to see Matsunaga's death later on, so I'll save them for that time. So I said I was going to explain what that Todaji thing was. Nobunaga claimed that one of the reasons he was evil was he burned Todaji in the cutscene we just saw. What that means is Todaji is basically this big Buddhist temple which is near Kyoto, and whilst Matsunaga was fighting the Miyoshi clan, he burned it down as part of the conflict, and it was widely thought that he had no reason to do this and that he was being vindictive for various reasons. And this is how people came to think he's evil for destroying this temple. He had no real advantage to do it, he just did it during his retreat from the Miyoshi. So this was one of the big sins he committed against the Japanese people, which, I don't know, really got him quite a bad reputation. So he had this very bad reputation. Throughout Japan he had a very bad reputation, but he actually had a very bad reputation in the West as well. He was so annoying that he managed to get his reputation all the way around the world to Europe, when he was known as an evil man, mainly because in the 1566, might have been the 1550s, no, it would have been the 1560s I think, he had this proclamation where he banned all of the Jesuit missionaries from Kyoto. So around this time, Jesuit missionaries were traveling Japan trying to convert people to Christianity. They found it very difficult because they didn't speak Japanese, and there are certain facets of the Japanese language that make it very, very difficult to preach Christianity. It's quite interesting. You almost can't talk about the Christian doctrines in Japanese because the language required is very advanced, and at the time of Sengoku, the average person wouldn't know the language you would need to explain these concepts to them. So I guess you just stand there and wave your arms and shout, and I don't know, several hundred people were converted to Christianity in the early phases of Jesuit missionary activities, but it wasn't going to become big until much later on. There's only one Jesuit missionary I know of who really ended up speaking Japanese, and I actually think he makes an appearance in this game if I remember correctly, so I'll save talking about him for a little bit later on. I think he ends up as one of Nobunaga's friends in the game, to vaguely represent how Nobunaga sort of embraced Christianity. But these are all issues to talk about later, but they're very interesting issues, so I like to talk about them. But anyway, we need to move on, so I'm going to see you next time in The Legend of Nobunaga, where we're going to go up against the Miyoshi clan, who are threatening to take Kyoto back and try and regain their old dominion over the emperor and the former position of shogun, and see how Nobunaga managed to deal with this threat, and whether he's going to have any surprises from many of the other daimyo who are eagerly watching his activities and waiting to take Kyoto from him. See you next time.